Okay, MAM, PAM, and workflow automation. As I mentioned, this is actually quite a big part of the chain of how media entertainment is working now. MAM, for those that don't know, is a media asset management system. We have PAM as well, which has two acronyms underneath. One is production asset management, and the other one was, I can't remember now. No, it's production asset management. My apologies. I had another note down here. But certainly the workflow automation side is something that's very, very interesting, and there's definitely convergence over with the encoder side of things as well. So I'll go into that in a bit. But I will pass over to Matt Wood, who will be going through Cantemo.
Thank you, Sean, and thank you to everyone who's joined us for this section of the webinar. So Sean made some very good points before about metadata and how best to leverage that metadata. So that leads me into our first MAM system, which is called Cantemo Portal, which some of you may have heard about before. So Portal is an enterprise class asset management software intended for workgroups. It's a solution that meets the core requirements of affordability, robustness, and adaptability while providing a uniquely customizable toolset, scalable features, themed interface, and modular applications. It's currently available in two flavors. The standard edition supports up to 60 unique users, while the enterprise edition provides extensive scalability. When you see it in action, I'm sure it will not fail to impress. And because both versions share the same foundation, it's very easy to start small and grow your deployment. So it's built on established open standard technologies. Portal is a complete media asset management package with a user experience I've yet to see surpassed. The primary way to engage with Portal is through a web browser. For the end user, there's no special software to learn. The interface has the appearance and ease of use of a contemporary website. It's because of that familiar look and feel that everyone finds it fairly intuitive. Because it functions like a website, Portal can also be tailored to provide a unique experience, utilizing different themes or providing access to custom features on a per-user basis. Administrators are not only able to control which items each user can search, but also how they interact with Portal. If you need to support different languages or use different branding schemes or work with themed looks, Portal can be set up to distinguish between particular clients, departments, or individual users. It was this feature in particular that made me sit forward and take notice when I first saw it at NAB a few years back. Embracing metadata changes the way you work as an editor. It means one can access their media in a variety of ways and create fluid relationships between those items. Final Cut Server played a huge part in that transformation, and with Portal we are seeing customers do this further. In Portal, metadata is also treated as something that can be managed and finely tuned in a completely transparent and granular fashion. Like Final Cut Server, behind the scenes, the standard edition of Portal employs a sturdy Postgres SQL database. However, Portal administrators have much greater control over how the metadata schema and can define more complex relationships between datasets. They can also control which fields individual users have access to and precisely define what can be modified. In this way, the user experience can be managed and finely tuned. One of the features I really want to champion about Portal is that it has been designed to be a singularly flexible and adaptive solution. While there is out-of-the-box support for a range of industry standard applications and media formats, the modular design of each component toolset means that new features can be added to expand Portal or supplement existing functionality. If you require bespoke operations that don't already exist within the Portal ecosystem, there are a variety of paths available to have software created. Additional tools can be used to create rough cuts and other direct interaction with non-linear editing software. And Portal automatically creates low-resolution proxies of video items, which can be previewed directly in the web browser interface. The HTML5-based players incorporate industry-standard keyboard transport controls, so that's your JKL support. With the addition of the annotation tool, users can add metadata and specific sections of a clip to a specific sections of a clip, I should say, before sending that information to a dedicated NLE. The ability to utilize the proxies and work directly with the browser means creatives can manage media before they move to the specialist NLE, or members of a larger team have opportunity to contribute to the editorial process. So Portal leverages the industry-leading rich media backbone of VidCheck. It's used to deliver support for multiple media formats, transcoding, API translation, and application integration. The VidCheck toolset also means Portal is infinitely scalable. And by expanding to Portal Enterprise, organizations are able to create their own redundant, high availability media management and distribution platforms. So video footage and related content can be ingested into Portal in a variety of ways. Individual files can be uploaded manually, whilst large numbers of assets can be ingested automatically. The transcode engine supports a wide variety of formats, including Apple ProRes and DNx HD, and additional formats can be licensed to meet specific needs. Files can be transcoded to a range of formats to meet the needs of the organization with disparate delivery requirements. So whether you need to send files to broadcast or deliver directly to the web, Portal is able to support your workflow. And in addition to the built-in VidCheck transcoder, Portal is able to exchange files with third-party encoding solutions, which can be useful if you already have a transcoding cluster for Final Cut Server. The standard edition of Portal currently supports Red Hat, with Enterprise supporting Windows Server, and it can be deployed on a virtual machine and integrate with all manner of network protocols and storage solutions, including StoreNext. So that last one is particularly useful if you already have an XAN environment. If you'd like to know more or have a personal demonstration at our lab in Artarmon, let us know. We've got it set up ready for you to see. But what I should mention is not everyone needs a full-blown enterprise-scale asset management system. So next up, I'm going to hand over to Johan, who's going to tell us a bit more about a production asset management system called FocalPoint.
Thank you, Matt. Hi to everyone out there. Yeah, FocalPoint Server, I guess this is a difference between, we'll be looking at quite a few different MAM systems today, like Interplay, Cantemo, but FocalPoint Server is a production asset management system. So I guess we saw this at NAB. It's been around for about a year or so. What drew our interest to it was we have spec'd quite a few MAMs over the last few years. And I guess one thing we got from specking them out was they're a lot of work. The people that want one is basically everybody, but the price range that they come in and the amount of work that's required to get an asset, a proper MAM up and running is quite a lot, right? So it's not just buying the product, speccing it out from the beginning and getting all the metadata fields in that you want and all that sort of thing. You almost want somebody to run it, 7 days a week for you to make sure it's maintained, that it grows properly. It is a lot of work. So a production asset management system is something which is, I wouldn't say it's cut down. I think it's just created for a completely different, purpose to just a basic, or not a basic, a complex MAM system. It's this particular one, FocalPoint Server, which I'll go through. It's broken up into basically 3 groups. You've got FocalPoint Portal, which is like a social media system, which is instead of having all your staff sitting there on Facebook or Skype every day, if you've got new staff coming in, do they have to create a new Skype account or something like that so everyone can talk to each other? It's got its own social media tool built into it. So people can sit there and talk to each other on a day-to-day basis. It's got the FocalPoint Server, which is the actual production production asset management system. And then there's third-party integration for archive, QC, transcoding, and all that sort of thing. So this is the GUI for the portal. You can see it's basic, right? And this system, I should have said this at the beginning, but it's a very simple, easy to use system, which is another great reason why we like it. You've just got users. You can have them from your open or active directory or whatever way you want to set up your users. And they type in, they post things off to each other. A good part about it is you can use it for obviously just talking day to day, but you can also use it for talking production. So you've got an up and coming production, you want to sit there and brainstorm ideas online and all that sort of thing. You can sit there and use this, and then once you've come up with what you want to do for that production, you can actually initiate the production from the portal. So basically it will then send through the information that you want to the FocalPoint server to actually create the production. So what is FocalPoint server? I guess this is a basic view of what you see when you're looking at this application. On the left is basically when you start a project, you need to give it a name, and it will control the naming convention. So if you've got 20 people working in your facility and they've got access to create new projects, you need them to use, and sometimes there might be freelancers coming in or whatever. You need them to use a correct sort of naming convention so that you can find stuff in the long term. So if you need to find a project that was done 6 months ago, you know how to find it. You know what it was called. It also deploys the media across the SAN. So one thing you do with FocalPoint Server is when you create the project, rather than bringing the assets in through your NLE or through Photoshop or whatever, you actually drag all your assets through FocalPoint Server. And what that does is a couple of things. One, it allows FocalPoint Server to use third-party apps, but mainly it looks at your SAN, and what you do is predetermine what you want your folder structure to be on your SAN, and it will automatically put all that media and all those files, scripts, or whatever you've got included with it into the structure on your SAN that you want that media to go to. So you haven't got people let loose on a giant SAN system where they can drop files absolutely anywhere and make a mess of it, which is, I'm sure, a lot of you have been through those sorts of situations before. So it will control that and manage that for you. Also, and this is a great thing, it will predetermine the settings on your NLE. So if you've got Premiere, Avid, be it even if it's Photoshop, if it's if it's Maya or something like that, you can go into that application. Now, initially, we'd go into that application and make a whole bunch of predetermined settings. So it needs to be this format. Files can't be so long, or whatever it is you need the settings to be for that application. As soon as they create that project, it will put those settings. So, somebody's not going to create a project, which is an iPhone project, for example, and they've done the whole thing in HD or whatever. You can set that up so when they start it and they go, okay, I'm choosing this is going to be an iPhone iPhone video that we're creating, it automatically sets everything up in Premiere or Avid. And you can you'd have multiple versions of that for multiple departments and, multiple types of projects that your company's making. And obviously, like I was saying, Avid, Premiere, Autodesk, Final Cut X, basically whatever it is, if it can be tapped into with an API or whatever, we can basically control its settings from FocalPoint Server. So another thing it'll do version tracking. It does approvals. So at the end of the workflow, you want to. Your approval system has to be something which is nice and slick. And nowadays people don't send DVDs out around anymore. It's they just want a file on their iPad. They want to sit there and look at it, make sure the content's okay, and okay it. FocalPoint Server has third-party support for VidCheck, which is QC, ContentAgent, Archiware for archive, and all sorts of transcoders. It's, you can also use its own sort of transcoder in the background if you want as well. What I did want to do was explain what I guess FocalPoint Server workflow would be like. So if you were starting a project, so you started it, you agreed it on what it was, you gave it its naming convention, the SAM was set up for all the media to be accessed into the correct point. You'd start off, I guess, would be something like editorial. So editorial, bring all these video clips in, would dump them into FocalPoint Server. They would all get pushed onto the SAN into the right position. He would do his edit. And then what he can do is go, okay, now I want to move this and make this project ready for graphics. And then it could make it ready for graphics. And then graphics would open that project. They could bring all the graphics in through FocalPoint Server, use whatever applications that they needed to use, and the settings could be set specifically for those as well. Then they might want to move it to audio. Then audio gets it, does the same sort of thing. Then they might want to move it to finishing. So then it gets finished. Then at the finishing point, he might go, okay, now I need to send it off for approval. So as soon as I send it off for approval, it automates a proxy of a certain version to be made. It pushes that to a particular point on your SAN or on your storage, somewhere on the network where it can be accessed via the iPad, and then ping an email off to who's ever in charge of approvals, and then they can go yes or no or whatever, and it can move the project back and forth. From that, because of archive, being able to integrate with Archiware, for example, and there's going to be other archive tools that you're going to be able to integrate with. From that, we can basically, at 2 clicks, basically push that off to Archiware and say, okay, I want you to archive this entire project. That's all the media. That's the entire folder structure that was created for it initially, all its rushes, or all its graphics, all its audio, everything which you put into that production gets archived off. So that means if you're archiving all that off together, when you go to Archiware, you can drag all that back at the one time. And that is, I think, from what I've seen, and I wouldn't say that's all it does, but for going back to what I was saying about MAMs versus PAMs, MAMs are massive things, and where I think 90% of, maybe 80 or 75% of the people we come across, this is really what would suit them a hell of a lot better than a giant MAM where they've got to employ new staff to run it and all that sort of thing. Anyway, after putting down MAMs just a wee bit, I'll pass you back to Matt, who's now going to go through another MAM. This one, Axel, and I hear this one's a cut down version. So here, I'll just pass you back now. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm back again. So you know who to speak to about MAMs and who to speak to about PAMs at this stage of the game. So look, Johan touched upon about how MAMs can be a massive deployment, and they can be, but I guess the flip side is they don't necessarily have to be, and which brings me to Axel. Now, interestingly enough, the guy who runs Axel, Sam, is actually ex-Avid, and he used the Interplay guy, so he knows MAMs through and through. But what he wanted to do was create a radically simple media asset management appliance, specifically designed for video, audio, and still management. What's driving the need for media asset management? Well, look, let's go over this again. It's the need to manage all the storage and the new video that is coming in. So over the last few years, there's been an explosion of formats and camera types. So you have things like DSLRs, GoPros, Red cameras, ARRI, all of this footage coming in. And what the Axel software will do will work with any type of storage so that you can organize your video and that you've been out shooting, and give you ways to do selects where you can mark in and mark out on that video, enabling you ways to search and collaborate with your co-workers and customers. How does it work? Well, Axel can run on something as simple as a Mac Mini, with a typical installation having a second Mac Mini to offload the transcoding process. What Axel does is once you point it at any folder structure you already have existing, it's going to look at the subfolders and catalog all the different types of media. It generates an H.264 low resolution proxy, which is frame accurate, so you can scrub, and it's time code accurate, so you can go frame by frame or second by second. You can also do some basic marking in and marking out, make a subclip, add comments, and you can use that to collaborate with your co-workers and generate project files. These get placed in a bin, and you can export an XML into Final Cut 7, 10, Premiere, or Avid, and your NLE of choice will pull in any clips, any comments you've added, and you can jump into editing straight away. Axel makes it really easy for us to organize using metadata. It scrapes metadata that comes in with the clips, so it's going to pull in the codec, file format, and a bunch of other stuff. And you can also add your own custom metadata fields. So then through the search bar, you can do a simple search based on title or an advanced search that will look at any of the advanced metadata fields you've created. So you can find files very, very easily, even if you have lots of subfolders. I touched upon the second machine for transcoding of proxies, but you can also use that to transcode your clips into different formats. Further, in your project bins, you can create high resolution subclip and transcode that to your editor so that your editor can have it in a format that he needs to run with. There is a review and approve workflow with a drop-down list saying yes, no, or maybe. And through the administrative pages, you can set up users and get really granular with the permissions that you give those users. So if you would like to know more or have a demonstration at our lab in Artarmon, let us know. And speaking of Avid, we're gonna hand across now to Sean, who's going to tell us a little bit about Interplay.
Hi again, everyone. So as you can see on the screen, we've got Interplay on there and a new part of Interplay, Media Central UX. So a lot of you will probably see on the Avid website that there's a new theme, I guess, as part of Avid, which is the platform. And what that's doing is it's actually looking at how we can collaborate better, how users can collaborate better. And in larger sort of facilities, and when I say larger sort of facilities, I'm talking between five people and up. There is a need for better collaboration and workflow efficiency. I certainly think that Avid are definitely, I'll call them the old hands at this, but that's probably the wrong way to say it. It's certainly one of the most experienced teams and one of the most experienced vendors in workflow collaboration, editorial collaboration, news collaboration, sports collaboration, really to see their entire ecosystem and workflow go from package to package is quite amazing, and it's very, very impressive. So Interplay Production is definitely the most integrated and sleek system that I've seen. It's the integration aspect of it is from the NLE all the way through to storage, to web-based editing, to playout servers, to logging and tracking of assets, and logging and tracking of social media as well. So the way that Media Central actually works into this system is quite impressive. So about 12 months ago, probably 18 months ago, you may have heard of the product called Interplay Sphere. Certainly gone through I guess a rebranding, but the idea is still the same. It's a system that essentially streams your material either to your NLE or through your web browser into your web-based editor. The thought and the knowledge that's gone into these tools is quite amazing, and when you see it come together, it is very, very impressive. So essentially, where I'm getting to with that is Media Central replaces the old Interplay Central product, which was the lightweight edit client that either news organizations used or rich media organizations used that didn't need a full craft editor like a media composer, for instance. So behind the scenes of Media Central and Interplay Production and Interplay MAM, you have a number of core services that, like your ICPS and with Interplay Sphere, to be able to provide the same material to you irrespective of the platform that you're on, so that you can interact with that material, edit that material, affect a change in that material, send that material, and really have a huge amount of control with it. I've taken a couple of screenshots there. It doesn't do it justice to be able to put it in a webinar and say, there it is, it's fantastic, have a look at it. It's quite an impressive workflow. I highly recommend. We're more than happy to take you through a demonstration of it. But on the left hand side, as you can see, you've got your viewing window. You're able to scrub your material, log material, do a basic edit, create a basic ALE to be able to, AAF to be able to put into Media Composer if required. You're able to use this as a review and approval tool. You're able to import metadata. I was talking about rich metadata and utilizing metadata for monetization. This is a perfect example of being able to keep putting metadata into these pieces of material and utilize that. Similarly, as you can see on the right-hand side as well, it's completely scalable and customizable, so that you can be just a logger, you can be an editor, you can be a review and approval person, you can do a voiceover actually through the browser, be able to take a USB microphone and actually lay down an audio track with that. Really cool stuff. Very very well thought out material features that you can use with that sort of material. A lot of features here, and these are also available on the Avid website as well. But here are some use cases. I mean, newsroom, they've certainly been extremely successful in the newsroom areas, being able to utilize iNews, being able to utilize Interplay and Newscutter and things like that. And it's only going to augment and create more abilities to be able to provide material that way. Reality TV, certainly a fantastic area to be able to do that, and sports. So as you can see, there's so many different workflows and things that you can do with Media Central and with Interplay to be able to custom create your workflows in a far more efficient way than trying to organize everything via a Finder window or a Windows Explorer window. And it really speaks to the holistic approach that Avid's taking with not only its products, but with other people's products as well. So integrating each of the areas and each of the platforms, as you can see up the top with Media Central, being able to use Windows, Apple, iOS, Android, web-based HTML editors, whether you're on an iPad, whether you're on a laptop or a craft editor, whether you want to connect and edit and browse material via 3 or 4G, or so many different options for you. Again, this is another element of what Lewis was talking about at NAB in their new approach to the marketplace. So certainly recommend having a look at the presentation that Lewis did on the Avid website. Running short of time in the MAM PAM Workflow Automation section, but I thought it prudent to touch on Aspera Orchestrator. Some of you may know Aspera as a file delivery software methodology or mechanism for a lot of areas. Aspera Orchestrator is actually an add-on to the fast file delivery software that they've been selling for well over 7 years, I think it is now. This Aspera Orchestrator is purely a workflow automation tool, and by workflow automation tool, as you can see on the right-hand side, it's an area that that a lot of people are looking at because they have disparate systems or different transcode solutions or different delivery solutions. So what Aspera Orchestrator essentially does is it does a number of tasks to be able to say, for instance, I receive material in via Aspera. When I receive that material in, send to this location or send to this transcoder. And when that's done, please send it to QC. And when that's done, please send it to Playout. And when that's done, then please send it to an archive appliance. So very, very, very in-depth and very, very flexible for what you want to do. And it is in a graphical area, so you can customize what those workflows are on an individual basis, all via using hot folders or all via using triggers. So very, very clever stuff. Very, very integrated. And they definitely integrate with quite a number of technology partners. Certainly, some of the ones that we've utilised in the past are your Telestreams. Certainly, Symantec and Sophos is very good if you want to utilise with antivirus and go through that. Certainly, Baton and Tektronix for the QC side of things. Very, very simple integration with those guys, and the ability to affect changes in other people's environments and get feedback from disparate technologies as well.